Okay. Paul, can you hear us now?
I can.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, 6 o'clock, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, first thing on the first item on the agenda is public comment. I don't believe we have any registered in advance. Is there some public comment? Okay, we'll step to the podium and state your name, please.
Seth Johnson.
Okay.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, I stand before you today as a concerned citizen of Hampton, Iowa, seeking justice, protection, and community healing. Since my dispute with my ex-landlord, I faced slander and harassment with documented evidence as well as threats. Collusion between my ex-landlord and Officer Kelly, proven by public records and texts. Threats from my ex-landlord. Also, the date I told him I was taking him to court lines up with his wife's house burning down. That's circumstantial, yes, but that's all it takes in arson. False imprisonment. I was, charged for vandalism when I was a victim in a crime, and I needed medical attention, but was charged anyway, and didn't get to go get that medical attention until afterwards, but anyway. Attempted probation revocation. Captain's refusal to respond to sabotage claims that I've had with Murphy's. I demand that Chief Morrison's accountability for ignoring my concerns and perpetuating harassment, Officer Kelly's investigation for collusion, harassment, etc., abuse of power, Doug Tarr's accountability for trespassing or improper notice issuance, abatement of nuisance charges, proven invalid, and if not, we can. Action against vehicles parking on the grass, violating town ordinances, as well as the other issues I took photos and many I didn't. Accountability into my claims on ex-landlords and parents, as well as my older brother. I additionally seek reimbursement for damages, funding for a new roof and siding, and that could be sponsored by Hampton businesses, because I think it's kind of fitting in a way. Removal of the 3 trees I have, because again, they're overdue, but this has put a lot of strain on me financially. I've had to get lawyers, I've had to do a lot. Front yard sculpting to enhance community aesthetics, which would be one of the tree trunks that I plan to have a sculpture made of. It's a perfect shape for it in my front yard, so. Support for my nonprofit initiative, Love Into Our Future, promoting life skills and community healing. I feel that all have suffered this to be more than fair. Also, full maintenance of my heating unit and plumbing maintenance to be funded directly by Murphy's. Had I not had the battery fire, I would have taken them to court. However, the evidence was destroyed. They stole $2,000 of my wife's inheritance, then sabotaged my home and heating system. Love Into Our Future aims to teach essential life skills to youth, foster community love and understanding, provide resources for those affected by harassment, abuse, drug addiction, and much more. I propose collaboration with local organizations to establish community programs, workshops on conflict resolution, empathy, and healthy relationships, community events promoting unity and inclusivity. Hampton deserves a safe, loving environment. I urge this council to address my concerns, support community healing initiatives, foster a culture of love, empathy, and understanding. Let's work together to create a brighter future for Hampton. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
I just want to thank you for bringing your concerns to us, and then we can definitely address that and have discussions around that. So I appreciate that. Is there any other public comment this evening? All right. Moving on, we'll move on to the nuisance updates. Would like to start.
Yeah, as far as the nuisance goes, we had 5 new notices go out as of last week. We had 3 citations written last week, and we have a couple more that are still pending. We continue to work on those and follow up with the ones we've written in the previous weeks. There's a lot of them coming due in this time frame. There was about 15 written a couple weeks ago, so they're all coming due. So all those are ready for citations, if not cleaned up. So I think that's it. We have 2 court order cleanups, so we need to work with Mr. Tar on getting scheduled to get cleaned up, but they've been busy on street repairs and projects, so as soon as we get time, that'll probably be early November before we can get to those court order cleanups. That's all I've got, unless there's questions.
Any questions for Mr. Chief Morrison? Not hearing any. Thank you.
Thank you. Apologize for the sunglasses tonight, battling a heck of an eye infection. So, anyway, the asbestos abatement RFPs have been sent out for the test results we got back last week for 25 6th Street Southwest. So I anticipate a demolition this winter sometime. Those RFPs will be back due November 1st at 5 p.m. So as soon as we get a low bidder on that, we'll get them out and get things rolling on that. And then, as Chief said, I got quite a few court dates coming up this month as well. So other than that, though, I think I'll just entertain any questions or concerns you may have.
Was there a lot of asbestos in that, or is it really, doesn't matter? If there's some, there's enough to,
No, this one, there was, I believe, the siding, some caulking. The report showed a pretty significant
Okay.
amount in this one, and it's a big 2-story.
of course.
What was that address again?
25 6th Street Southwest. But we have 7 removal contractors, so hopefully we'll get a good price on that. It should be competitive quotes, so that'll be good.
What's
Silence.
the code say for timeline for rental housing inspections?
For rental housing inspections?
Apartments.
Apartments, right. So it's once every 5 years. Once it's an improved one or it's been certified, they're good for 5 years. Unless a tenant comes in and lodges a formal written complaint at the city, and then that would prompt another inspection for any allegations that are made.
I heard through the grapevine, one of the apartment buildings, the basement was full of sewage. How was that remediated?
I believe they took care of that on their own.
Was that a plugged line or what was it?
I wasn't here when that incident occurred, but I did get some information secondhand. So
Shouldn't that be something that should be inspected?
I believe our staff was there. So
Yeah. Our staff, me and Andy, Jared from the water department, were there, and it wasn't an actual sewer line, but there was like a separate line. There was also a clean water drip or leak that was contributing to the standing water in the basement, but the floor was so dirty from prior sewage backups that it looked and smelled like sewage. So, but anyway, staff stayed until they knew Morts were coming, so Morts came and took care of the problems.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Tar? Hearing none. Thank you, sir. Next, we have the review the Iowa Public Agency and Investment Trust Resolution. I believe we have Mr. Paul Cruz with us tonight. Paul?
Yes, thank you. I recognize a few faces there. I grew up in Hampton. I was a 76 grad. I think Jim was, well, I know Jim was a year ahead of
Yeah,
me. So.
I remember you, Paul.
Good or bad, huh?
Yeah, bad.
I appreciate you get the opportunity to get in front of you. As was said, it's the Iowa Public Agency Investment Trust. And as a member of the Iowa League of Cities, it's a program that you're entitled to use. I'll give you just kind of a brief overview of the program, of the fund. It was started back in 1987. As I mentioned, the Iowa League of Cities, the Iowa State Association of Counties, and the Iowa Association of Municipal Utilities. Those were the three sponsors of the fund. When it was first started, basically it's a money market fund. We invest in everything that the city of Hampton can invest in, so treasuries, repos, CDs. Again, it's a money market fund, and it's managed as such. Today's rate, if you went to our website, is 4.65. If I'd been here, I guess maybe a month ago, our rate was around 5.10. Obviously, with the Fed decrease in November, has had an impact on our rate. But again, it's still 4.65. Every participant in the fund gets the same rate. So Polk County is Council Bluffs, is Chapin. Every participant in the fund gets the same 4.65, and that rate is always quoted on our website, www.ipate.org. So if you get up tomorrow morning and you want to look and see what the rate is, it does change, but because it's a money market, it changes very, very little. About 6 or 7 years after the fund was started, we went into what we call the fixed term program. So we provide CDs and treasuries to our participants in the fund. Chad at Franklin County, he uses that for the fixed term with property taxes. Lisa at Hampton Dumont School District invested her bond proceeds in our schools fund. It's the Iowa Schools Joint Investment Trust. It's managed identically to the IPATE fund, and she's locked in some rates. I just looked before I got on. Most everything's above 5% locked in, so she's done a really good job of investing those funds. I think I provided a piece, and it says reasons to pass the IPATE enabling resolution. And I look at that, and the reason I put that in, it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago. I presented to a solid waste commission, and the chair of the commission says, "Paul, is there any reason why we would not want to pass the resolution?" And I said, "I really can't think of anything why you would not. But here's 10 reasons why you should." It doesn't cost anything, so passing the resolution, all that does is says the city of Hampton, if you want to invest, you're set up. You may never invest, but if you say you pass a bond issue for a new fire station, and you need a place to invest the bond proceeds. There's times, and we saw this during COVID, banks weren't looking for funds. They didn't want public funds. And that was when the rates were around zero. It provides an investment option for liquid funds. Again, I know you've got at least 3 strong banks in town, but this is just another option. And I've said to every client that I've got, if you're not getting 465, you should be. Again, that's the daily rate. I have no problem if you go to the local banks and say, "Look, here's what we can get through IPATE. Will you match it?" Perfect. You've kept it locally and you've got a better rate, even if you pick up a few basis points. It can provide a good barometer for investment rates in Iowa. Again, what we do is we work with about 300 banks across the state on the fixed term program. So if you're looking for a CD rate, what we'll do is we'll contact, and not all the banks are looking for funds, but your 3 banks in Hampton are on our list. And so if you requested a CD bid, we would not contact those 3 banks. We would contact maybe Bankers Trust in Des Moines, Hills Bank and Trust in Iowa City, Cedar Rapids Bank and Trust, the other banks across the state. Again, certificate of deposits outside of the area. As I mentioned earlier, if the bank doesn't want funds, diversification, ladder to bond proceeds. Bank philosophies change. I know, I don't know if Ivan Davis still has Hampton, and I know it's not Hampton State anymore, but ownerships change and sometimes philosophies change. You can have as many accounts as you want. I know the city of Jefferson has, I believe, 12 different accounts. Each account is maintained separately. So they've got, for example, they've got an operating fund. They have a bond account. They have a library account. They have a parks and recreation account. So each one of those accounts is maintained separately. The interest accrues daily and is paid monthly at the end of the month. And I guess the last thing is online investment capabilities. So to make an investment, you would go online. It's dual authentication because, again, that's what we've seen in our world now. But if you want to make an investment, you do it ACH. So if, say, First Security perhaps is your bank, and you wanted to move funds into iPay, as long as it's done by 3 o'clock, the funds will be in your iPay account the next day, earning, again, 4.65. That's kind of it. Again, it's and vice versa. So the funds, if you want the funds back, and as long as it's done by 3 o'clock, the funds are going to be back in your local bank.
So there's no penalty.
No penalty. It's a daily. It's a liquid fund. So it's a liquid fund. So you can have it, and if you invest it today and you want it back tomorrow, again, as long as it's done by 3 o'clock, it'll be back in Hampton the next day. Like I said, it's been extremely successful. For the IPATE fund, there's roughly about $2 billion invested on behalf of Iowa cities, counties, utilities, and municipal hospitals, solid waste commissions. The school fund is bigger than that. Again, you've got virtually every school district in the state utilizes the IceJet fund. That's about $2.3 billion. My firm, PMA Financial, we manage the fund. We do the marketing for the fund. We're the investment advisor, administrator, and then U.S. Bank is the custodian for the fund. So that's where the funds are held. And it has to be a large bank. And it's, we used to deal with Wells Fargo, and then we put it out for bid, and it's now U.S. Bank. But that's where the funds are custodied.
Paul, are there any fees, any fees related that the city would pay your
Nope.
firm?
There's any rate that I quote to you is net to the school or to the city. So again, 465. That's the rate that you're going to earn. I usually get the question, okay, you guys, you're a nice guy, but you got to earn something for it. And we do. Again, the investment advisor, the administrator, the marketer, my firm, we all get total about all out with the U.S. Bank. And then again, the one thing too is Iowa League of Cities as the sponsor, they get a small piece too as a sponsor of the fund. But so if you wanted to add basically 30 basis points or 0.3% to the 465, that would be the gross rate. But again, any rate that I ever say to you is always going to be net. And I think I provided the information statement. The information statement is probably as detailed a piece as you're going to find. And that talks about what we invest in, the fees, talks about our board of directors. Alan Kemp, as the Iowa League of Cities executive director, sits on our board. There are 3 representatives on the IPATE board for the league. Your 3 are Brent Hinson from Mason City, Tim Stiles, the CFO at West Des Moines, and Jeff Nemmers, the CFO at Fort Dodge. So they represent the league on the board. Then we have 3 representatives from ISAC and also from Iowa Association of Municipal Utilities.
Is your office in Des Moines?
It is. I'm in West Des Moines. My office overlooks University in West Des Moines. If you know where Chick-fil-A is, I'm directly east of Chick-fil-A.
The address printed in this form, it's out of Illinois. Is that where the main office is?
Yes, that's where we're based out of, Naperville, Illinois. But I run the Iowa office and our office, and again, I mentioned the Iowa banks. They are only Iowa banks. Iowa statute says you can only invest in Iowa banks. So that's the bank. We work with banks all across Iowa, about 300.
Thank you.
So in order to work with IPATE, as Paul said, we would have to pass a resolution, which you have a copy of the resolution. I would recommend that we pass the resolution. I think the biggest advantage to this is we look to going forward. We have a state legislature who is bent on reducing property tax revenues for cities. So we have to look at every option to get the best return on our funds that we do have and that we can get. So the local banks are great on CD rates. It's just that this is one other tool that we can, check the rates, compare to, and I like the liquidity of it. So whereas a local bank, if we do a 6-month CD and we decide we need to, access some of those funds, there'd be a penalty. Whereas this, like Paul said, this is liquid daily, so we can put the money in one day, take it out the same day or the next day, no penalty. So it's just another tool. I would recommend.
And during a lot of the cities, obviously the counties, we go up extremely up. The balances due during tax receipt time. So we're getting it's as high as it is. We just set a record for funds invested for IPATE, again, just because of the tax receipt time. Then it goes out, and it goes to the cities and the schools and goes out. But so I told Ron, I said, I get up there, my class meets the first Friday of every month at the Rustic Brew, class of 76. And so I get up there occasionally if I can make it. So stop by. I think I can buy you a cup of coffee at under $2.99.
All right.
My numbers, and I think it's on there on that piece, but my cell number is on there.
Yes.
554-1555. If after I hang up and you have questions, I'm heading to a Polk County Board of Adjustment meeting I need to run to. It starts at 7. But if you have questions, feel free to give me a call anytime, and sure like to answer anything you've got.
All right, well, we sure appreciate it. Paul, taking the time. If you look, it seems like a no-brainer for us to have another avenue to invest some funds. So, to move forward with the resolution. But what do you guys?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with it.
Makes sense.
Is this something that you picked up at the Iowa League of Cities meeting, or?
Well, yeah, I've talked to Paul at Iowa League of Cities meetings, yeah. Known about it. I've been watching their rates for months, and so, but just more and more, thinking about what the legislature's doing and what they may do is just, we just gotta have all options, yeah.
The other thing too, if you're ever in Des Moines or West Des Moines, feel free to stop at 4200 University and make sure we're here.
We can do that.
So if everybody's
All right,
okay, we'll
so-
put this on Thursday's agenda. Okay.
Makes sense. All right.
Thank you,
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Great, appreciate it. Have a good evening.
You bet.
Too.
Bye-bye.
All right, next item up, Susie, our quarterly report for the library.
All right, hello. Just a couple things to report since I was here last. Since we just heard from Paul about funding, I will share our latest funding. The Franklin County Library Association did meet a week ago, and the determination was not to change the formula, which is not really what I had wanted. So the formula will remain the same, 32%. They're asking for a 5% increase from the supervisors, which for the library will be about $2,200. So I will address the concerns with the supervisors when we meet in December. I did speak at length, probably too long, about some of the issues with our funding as a result of this. And not only this, we all know the levy issue is, a little bit tough to take right now. But there is a lot of confusion concerning the library money and the foundation money. So, I think that will have to be addressed with the supervisors as well. And Marcia Helskov, who's the president of the foundation, has agreed to answer any and all questions when we meet with the supervisors because, we just need, I think, some clarification. Marcia would like to clarify what she feels the foundation is there for versus, daily expenditures from the library. I did have to tell them, I don't have the checkbook for the foundation. That is a completely separate funding. I have to request money the same as if I talk to you or if I talk to the supervisors. So, I don't have their checkbook. So anyway, the continuing issues with our elevator. So we applied for the Barkma grant to pay for the control panel. It is a $20,000 fix. Our foundation has agreed to pay the difference. So assuming I get the full $10,000, then the foundation's going to pay for the rest. If I don't get the grant, the foundation will pay the full $20,000. So we have to have it to be ADA required. That is a requirement. We don't have an option. So that's. And, no one's gotten stuck lately, so that's always a positive. We did have to have 2 breakers replaced because the electricity coming into the building had some issues. And that made a whole bunch of new sounds with the elevator that we did not know, but that was fixed. They came in, Mike Harper came in and fixed that, so it was 2 breakers, so. So assuming I hear from the grant, I will order the part. The grant should be released sometime in November. So then I will order the part, takes 3 weeks, and then the control panel will contain a whole bunch of updates. So it's not just going to be for one thing, it'll be a whole bunch of other updates. So, it only carries a year warranty, but,
See, how old is the elevator? I can't remember.
The elevator was installed in 1987,
Yeah.
so it's 37 years old. And we have not really had to do many updates with it. Just general maintenance here and there, so this is the first, major issue with it, so. And then the building, we're continuing to work with issues with our exterior of our building. I just talked to Doug before the meeting started about putting some dirt on the north side to get us through the winter. And then I'm getting some bids. We need new steps on the north side, tuck pointing. There are some issues on the north side, but I went ahead and had him give an estimate for the entire building because I just kind of want to, preempt some bigger issues we didn't see, and then, a year later we see them. His bid was about a little less than $20,000. This bid is from the same people who did the Methodist Church. And Doug's going to get me another person to get a bid from too. So the new concrete steps, they're about $10,000. But that included taking out the old steps. But I think, Doug, you had talked to me about possibly the city helping with the steps. Yeah, removing them so that bid could change. But I had him just, do the whole thing. And then the retaining wall on the north side, that's about $11,000 to do, so. I'm going to apply for the Franklin County Foundation grant, which I can get up to $10,000, so that will probably go to one of these. if we prioritize it, it'll go to what we need the most. So, that's about all I have, really. We'll begin the budget for the next fiscal year next month with the budget committee from the library. I think we present to the supervisors first, and I believe, is the city usually in January,
Yes.
Ron? Okay, that's what I thought. So we'll go from there. We have 2 upcoming programs. October 30th, United Bank and Trust will be doing 2 programs on cybersecurity, one at 10:30 in the morning, one at 5:30 at night, so we can kind of hit the people who work to offer that. And December 10th will be our holiday open house, and Pat Palmer, the computer guy, will be doing a program, Staying Safe Online, and that will be at 2 p.m. that day.
What date was the first one again?
The first one is October 30th.
Okay.
Yep. And then I'd like to thank Pat for filling me in on the session about libraries at the Iowa League of Cities. Very informative. I'm going to be following up, on some of the information you gave me. So, yeah, I enjoyed hearing, what was going on there. So does anybody have any questions for
I
me?
have a question. Could you speak to the need of that north door? Do you need that north door at the library after you have the entrance on the east side?
Well, that's a good question. Doug and I talked about that. And would it require the fire marshal to come and deem? It's something about the fire code.
Okay.
Like, I don't really know what it even says for how many people can be in our library at a time. I'm not really sure. I don't know if I've ever got a number.
Well, plus, if you took that out, it might really change the outside appearance of that historic building, too.
Well, and I can tell you to replace the brick of the curved part does not match.
Yeah.
And so the same issue would be to brick up that north
No, I'm not
door.
saying you should or shouldn't. I was just
Right.
curious about that.
Right.
So,
And if we could take that away, then we would not obviously need steps.
yeah.
But it is not used very much. In fact, we don't encourage it with children because the highway's right there. So we always encourage them to go out, our east entrance where the parking lot is.
Yeah,
But,
thank you.
yes, yep.
What's the foundation, how much money do they have?
The foundation, I don't really know for sure. It's a very good question. They're awaiting an award from the Bruce Norman estate. So I just talked to Art Cady, and he said he is still hoping by the end of this year, but he did not have an amount. He just said, he's hoping the end of the year. I mean, I could give you a rough estimate. I would say right now we probably have about 900,000 in there. And that would, of course, depend on,
Maybe they should
investments.
consider using this fund if they get a better rate.
Yeah.
Is that contract for that elevator exclusive to Schumacher?
No, I mean, we could look at other elevator companies. We do have a maintenance agreement with them, obviously. The control panel is not included in the maintenance agreement.
Okay.
But everything else he's been doing, I have never gotten a bill, so I'm assuming that's covered.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yep.
Probably want to have the fire marshal come before my class if I loaded up with 300 or 400 people.
That's
there.
true, that's true. Yeah, and I guess, I really don't know what our capacity is.
Right.
It's a good question.
Another thing is, I really would like to schedule a road trip either with you or your board president or someone to go to Cherokee. Cherokee gets $241,000 a year from their city. I don't know if it's broken down by, if they have some sort of a fund, a voted on fund like we have, or if they had just comes out of the general fund, or if they have a local option sales tax for it, or what they have, how they can put $241,000. They're a town of about 6,200.
Okay, so a little bigger than
Yeah,
this.
and so I'd like to tour it, and
Right.
the guy was sure energetic and seemed pleased as punch about his library.
Yeah. In fact, he's somebody, I think I'm going to call him.
Yeah.
I am curious as well, their budget breakdown.
And they have a worldwide gaming tournament like Monopoly and Sorry and the Game of Life and all these board games. And I'd like to see how they do that or facilitate all that, so.
Yeah, no,
But yeah, if you schedule something, just let me know and I'll tag along.
yeah, sure, yeah, sounds good to me.
All right. Any other questions for Susie?
Okay.
Looks like you've hit everything. Thank you so
All right,
much.
well, thank you very
you,
much,
Susie.
everyone.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the speeding concerns on 6th Street Southwest. Mr. Morrison.
Yeah, I was asked to put a little bit of information together for you, reference to the complaint of speeding on 6th Street Southwest. We did put the speed trailer down there as requested in the section of where the complaint was coming from. So that was in the 700 to 900 block, 6th Street Southwest. We set up the trailer, measured the southbound traffic, and that was for a day and a week. So it was Wednesday, October 9th to Thursday, October 17th. And the posted speed limit there is 25. There is speed limit signs going northbound and southbound in that section. The average speed measured by the trailer was 26.61 miles per hour, which was under the speed limit. The number of vehicles that it measured were 991 over that little over a week and a day. Typically, the enforcement tolerance is 9-10 miles an hour is where you'll start writing citations. I did pencil that out. The computer put it at 2. I did break down the last one of the 7, which one of those would be a citation 2. So total there would have been 3 observable violations they would have been ticketed for had we been sitting there for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week time frame. So I guess as far as where I'm at and continue to be at is to continue to do the extra patrol, continue to utilize the speed trailer and things like that, put up the speed signs, which we've already done. I think we'd see some of these similar numbers in other areas of the town too. So that's where I'm at, unless there's questions.
Yeah, how much time did it take for you to do this? And did staff do some of it, or you do it all yourself?
Halsey set up the trailer. I went down there, and you have to remote into this thing, and it takes some doing, and there's only one computer that works on it for some reason. So I took that down there, but the setup and all this probably took 2-3 hours by the time it was all said and done.
Thank you.
Yep. Most of the time was just waiting for the bag.
After I posted the agenda on my city council page, then, of course, everybody else has a problem with speed.
Right.
And they said, well, 7th Street is just as bad. So-
Yeah, we've put it on 7th Street also. We picked that as one of the locations for a potential automatic ticket writing one. It also was under 2%. All of our locations that we picked and had up were under 2% except for one, and that was on Highway 3 coming into town.
That's where that
Wow.
black car goes real fast. That's what they tell me.
Yep.
I don't think the numbers are good, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we just have to just keep monitoring it.
Yep. I would agree with that.
And I think you mentioned that this was southbound.
Yes,
Where we had
not-
it set up.
Yep.
But we'd probably anticipate the people, if nothing, if anything, they'd be probably going slower coming into town.
I would assume so
would
because
think.
it's a shorter run,
Yeah,
but, yeah.
yeah, I agree. I think just we keep monitoring. I don't think we have a huge problem there, so we appreciate your work on that and the data that you provided.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is the engineering discussion for 6th Street Northwest Bridge. Mr. Mark Crawford will give us some information.
Turn the TV on.
Oh, sure.
You're the remote.
Oh, Grey's Anatomy's on.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ron and Doug and I have been talking a little bit about the 6th Street Northwest Bridge and the condition of it. And so after looking at it and having some discussion with them, they asked that I just kind of put some ballpark numbers together, do some research, reach out to some contractors, other bridge professionals, other bridge agencies, to get an idea of what, if anything, might be able to be done here. What are some different options the city might have for doing something at this location? So I'll just start off with a few details about the bridge. It's a timber bridge. It's 22 feet long. The minimum standard to qualify for a bridge is 20 feet, so it just meets that requirement, being 22 feet long. It has an 18-foot wide deck on it. The deck is supported by 9 stringers that are 19 inches tall and 6 inches wide. Those are resting on a 12-inch by 12-inch pier abutment cap. As you can see there, that cap is right here. And that is sitting on 5 12-inch diameter wood pilings. That's these right here. The bridge is currently posted with a tonnage limit, and that is a tonnage of 11 tons. So it is a posted bridge, which means there is some weight restriction to it. So as I started looking at the bridge, you know, we just started looking at some different ideas to what to do there. One of the options, and we've discussed this before on a different bridge here in town, is to remove the bridge, reconfigure the channel, and put in a reinforced concrete box culvert. That is certainly an option here. That process will require a floodplain development permit through the DNR. The exercise we've gone through before is that the 100-year flood elevation needs to be determined, which requires a hydraulic study of the area, and that determination needs to be made, and then there's requirements that so much water has to pass through the new box culvert or the proposed box culvert such that it does not increase that 100-year flood elevation by 1 foot. And that's similar to what we looked at out at East Park. So, you know, the first step would be to engage in some sort of detailed hydraulic study to determine the actual size of what needs to go through that, the volume of water that needs to go through there, through that new box culvert. That channel is a very narrow channel. It's very narrow and very tall compared to other channels. So that would be it wouldn't be as big as the one we looked at out in East Park, but it would be a pretty substantial box culvert to go in there. Another option would be to remove the bridge and eliminate that crossing and establish the stream bank to prevent the erosion and other deterioration that might happen. There's currently some very good channel stabilization here in this abutment wall. So that's something that could be used if that option were to gain traction and want to be explored further. I think I had a picture. I'm gonna have to go back to the first one. You can see here on the west side of the bridge, there are gabion baskets. Those gabion baskets have been put there to prevent erosion on the north side of the channel, west of the bridge. So those gabion baskets could be extended to the east, again, if this solution were to gain traction and want to be explored further. But those could be extended to the east, again, to prevent that channel erosion. in my conversation with a couple different county engineers that have done some wood or some timber bridge rehabilitation, one of the other methods that they've used and talked about is to remove the surfacing that's on this bridge, which is just some very, very thin asphalt, and potentially put a new riding course, traffic wearing course on top of it. This is a cross-section from a set of plans from Lynn County where they did just that. They took a timber bridge and they added 2x4 paving strips right here along each edge. And then they poured an HMA, an asphalt cross-section or kind of pavement surface, and it's crowned there to keep the drainage going each direction. So they added the wearing surface to it. The challenge with this, particularly on this bridge, is that this is a posted bridge with a weight limit on it. When you add material, such as asphalt or concrete, you are adding weight to the structure. So you would decrease the weight capacity for this bridge, the bridge we're talking about. By what, I can't tell you offhand, but the structural subconsultant that does the work for the county, that does the bridge inspections for Hampton, I would certainly want to get them involved if this were to be an option worth pursuing to determine exactly what that diminished load capacity would be. They do the structural ratings on it, so they would know if this is something we want to do. If we want to put 3 inches of asphalt on it, they'd let us know what the decrease would be on the bridge. Another option would be to take the existing thin layer of asphalt off and remove the existing timber deck that sits on it right now, and just replace that timber decking with similar material. Several counties have done that in the past. Some have added a surface to it, and some have just left the timbers as the driving surface. They are all-season timber decking. Particularly, I talked with Franklin County engineer, and they've done this on several bridges. I think he had a conversation with Ron, or was going to have a conversation with Ron, that this would be something that they might be able to help the city with by way of bringing some of their equipment to town and help pop off that existing timber decking, and then the city would just need to purchase the right material from lumber company, and Mr. Tarr and his crew could put the timber decking back in place. So that's certainly a method that's been used before, particularly here. It's been used in Buchanan County. Lynn County has also used it. And certainly another option would be to place permanent barricades on each side of the bridge and just close it. Just close the roadway at the bridge. Leave the roadways open east-west on the north and up to it on the south to maintain access. I think that's a Mid-American site on the east side. The bridge would still need to be monitored for deterioration, but your biannual inspection that the county does would help take care of that. So it kind of gives you a buffet of options to look at, to think about. Obviously, don't need any decisions tonight, but we basically just wanted to kind of get the discussion started, throw out some options there that may be interested in looking at further.
How old is the bridge?
Bridge was built in 1940.
Has there been a traffic count on that at all?
So the DOT has some traffic data on that bridge, and I've visited with Ron about that. We think it's a little strong. They have about 300 vehicles per day across that bridge.
How old is that data?
I think it's within the last 3 years.
And how would they have compiled that? Estimate?
A lot of times what they do is they put out their traffic counters, they're the tubes in the road, and they'll put them out, maybe a half a block or 3/4 of a block to the south. And if a vehicle runs over it going northbound, for instance, then they presume it's going across the bridge. Or if a vehicle's coming eastbound on the road on the north side, there's a driveway to go north to a private property, but there's no way to go east, so they're gonna presume that it's gonna turn and go south. So that's how they do that.
There's a lot of counties that have, bridge deck planks. What's the odds of getting some from a county?
Possibly.
Or, lower the tonnage to 5 ton
Yeah,
or 4 ton?
what the challenge you'll run into as you get into those lower tonnages is your snow removal equipment that's loaded with sand and salt and your garbage trucks.
Pickups with a plow.
Yep, I mean, there's certainly ways around it.
I
They're just-
understand the garbage trucks.
Yep.
They want to take the most direct route, but if it's posted and they're on it, they'll get a ticket.
Yeah.
Another question, is there something that prompted this? I mean, has the last inspection saying that we have to do something, or we're just doing this? So
No, we're looking into it with the East Park Bridge, and then we have this one that's,
So another option would be just do nothing.
Yes.
So what's the condition of your boards that run this way? You got the decking runs this way. Is there any rot to the rafters or whatever they're called?
These stringers right here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Visually, when I looked at it, I did not see any problem with those. A lot more will be able to be determined, whatever the solution is, once the bridge decking is pulled up. If there is some rot on the top side of those, because these are on 6-inch spacings, it'd be really easy and probably very practical to drop a new one in between the two to add some of that support.
What about when we touch this, are we gonna need permits for it?
So the only way, you probably need a permit if you're gonna do anything related to removing and replacing it. Okay, if you're gonna put a new deck on it, you shouldn't need a permit.
Are you gonna research this some more for us?
I certainly can.
Is maybe staff gonna talk to the county engineer?
Yeah, we can talk to the county engineer more about the
The
process to get that new wood decking in place.
Butler County still has a bridge crew of their own. They do bridges like that.
Yep. I'll see the Butler County engineer next month, so.
Would this fall underneath something because it's a historical bridge to keep it? Being it's a wood bridge, do they have anything that would, for funding?
I visited with the DOT about this bridge, because it is one of the bridges that the DOT has on their list for the city of Hampton. They didn't say anything about it being an historical bridge. There is a report coming out at the end of this year about some of the historical bridges, a more comprehensive study that are in Iowa. But the bridge engineer I talked to didn't make mention specifically that this was on the list or in that report.
I have a comment on that. Like even buildings, just because it's old doesn't mean it would qualify as like a historic building.
Yep.
I mean, there's other factors, like was there something significant that occurred at or around that bridge would be an example. I mean, I'm not saying it's not, but it would,
Yeah.
just because it's old doesn't make it historical, as far as in the sense of like qualifying for like special funding or taking special care of it.
I think we should have the PD set the speed trailer there and then get a traffic count
That would be accurate.
for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. If we're not using it, we're probably using it, but I'm just saying, it'd be a more accurate traffic count.
Yeah,
I do
certainly
think
not
it is an important part of this neighborhood, and I think it's important to this neighborhood. I can't see an option of putting up barricades and shutting it down. I think we need to maintain it and keep it up and running.
All right. Well, that definitely gives us some options to look at and to discuss and everything else. Anybody else? Any other questions for Mark while we got him? Because we'll probably see you again.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome, thank you.
All right.
Watch out for deer.
Yeah. All right, last item on our agenda is the recommendation for zonings changed from the P and Z. Mr. Tar.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe I provided you guys with a handout from the county GIS to take a look at. A few weeks ago, we received a application for a change of zone from Mark McSweeney. Planning and Zoning Commission met last Wednesday evening, and one of the recommendations that came out of there, which you'll see at a formal council meeting coming up here, is to actually make a change of zone as their recommendation anyway for your consideration. To take that parcel, I believe it is also known as 1013 4th Street Southeast, which is highlighted on that hot pink on your map that I provided you. The current zoning of that property right now is light industrial, and that must have changed many years ago when some things were happening, and this was an acreage at the time. Now, not a lot of bells and whistles, I don't think, or any alarms should go off when things like that happen, because that's the nature of zoning. However, with Mr. McSweeney's situation, he is looking to sell this property, and you know, the thing with a property that is non-conforming is for a lot of reasons, you know, insurance being one of them. You know, if more than 50% of that property would be destroyed by natural disaster or something, would the new owner be able to rebuild residential? Even if it's by more than 50%, they would not, according to zoning code. Those are some things that we listened to and had a great discussion on, and anyway, I just wanted to give you a heads up that recommendation is going to be coming down the pike here in the next few weeks. You'll have to hold a public hearing as well if you choose to move forward with that, but just wanted to give you an update that that's going to be coming up.
So what do you want to change it to?
Arterial transitional, which is, Jim, if you go to the north, which would be 07334344012 parcel, just above it, just to the north of the one that's colored. That is where the arterial transitional stops, just to the north of this property. So really, they're looking for a zoning extension to include this as part of the arterial transitional zoning district.
Is that also the same across the Highway East?
No, actually, across to the east would be R1, single-family residential.
So what's the zoning south of this red?
South of it.
Light industrial?
No, I believe part of it's light industrial, and then there's restricted industrial commercial, even further to the south.
So how is this not spot zoning?
Because the arterial transitional would just drop basically down to include this
From the
parcel.
north.
Right, from the north. So it's a zoning extension. There would be no spot zone. And then the zoning to the west of this property is R2, two-family residential. So there's a lot going on just in this little area. But for marketability and everything, arterial transitional seem to be the best option.
Yeah, he can't sell it really without some change.
Did they have some business, like his dad, they've owned that property for quite a while.
since
Did
late
they have
70s.
early on, was there something like with livestock or?
He just had a horse,
Yeah, horse, yeah. I was just trying to think if there ever was really any,
you know.
because it's always, to me, it's always been like their farm.
Mm-hmm, right.
Right.
Yeah, his dad just passed away here a while back, and they're looking to sell it, but they can't sell it to somebody who if it burns down, well, you're stuck.
Right, right,
So,
yeah. Okay.
So if somebody were to purchase that and would want to put livestock on that, would that require
Even changing the arterial transitional, actually, there's no zoning district within the city limits of Hampton that you can just have livestock. All livestock has to be approved by you guys.
okay.
But he could, let's say they tore down that barn or incorporate that barn to make a welding shop or something, they could do that.
Yeah, AT definitely gives it a lot more marketing capacity.
That makes sense, yeah.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Tar? Thank you, sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
the information. And that brings us to the thing, that last item on our agenda. Well, we're going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Missed it.